I think, if you're a young Jew in America and you're getting bar mitzvahed and you're going to Hebrew school, as I did, and a lot of other people did, and a lot of those people wound up in comedy, you are also subject to the propaganda machine. And the propaganda machine is, I think when you're a kid and they're able to seduce you, you do get sucked in very easily, and you believe that Israel is your birthright, and it's a very pure equation. The existence of Israel and your right to be there, and those kind of things were not questioned at all when I was a kid. And I'm sure for Bill Maher or for Jerry or for anybody else, I can't really speak about, like, Sasha is half Israeli, so that's almost like it's a different sort of issue, and he's from the UK, obviously. But I think we're taught as American Jews that Israel is God gave us Israel, and once you start questioning God, then you start questioning Israel, and I think for me, I was always questioning, even in Hebrew school, I was questioning what I was being told. I was always questioning the common wisdom and getting into trouble for it, And I would imagine Bill and Jerry might have done the same, but they seem to have bought into the propaganda to some degree, at least how I see it, and haven't looked really past it. So when Bill and I had an opportunity to go to Palestine when we did Religulous, which made fun of all religions, he sort of balked at that. He did not. He felt it was unsafe to go there at that time. This is like 2008 or something like that. And I really wanted to go, but we didn't get a chance to go that time. But we had, both on Bruno and on Religulous, we had Israeli and Palestine fixers, guys that sort of set up the situations for us. And I got to know those Palestinian guys, and they were really cool guys, and it made you start to open your mind a little bit to what this reality was. And then on Bruno, we actually went into the West Bank and we shot some scenes, and we did a scene that I didn't really think about the political implications at the time of Bruno interviewing a so-called terrorist who turned out not to be a terrorist and was the only successful person to ever sue us. We must have had hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits that were thrown out of court, never even got to court. But we had to settle with him because we incorrectly, through bad research, identified him as a terrorist, And that made me think also, the way we had to manipulate that interview, that started to make me think also about what is the truth here, And I began reading and exploring it much, much more, reading things like Al Jazeera, just kind of exposing myself to what's out there. The information is out there. But if you are a pro-Israeli or pro-Zionist, which wasn't even like really part of the discussion, you were being only exposed to a small amount of the story. And we still are to this day. I mean, if you read the New York Times, which I do every day, it's still very Israeli-centric in terms of the news. You rarely hear about Palestinians as people. It's just it's just a large mass that are being slaughtered. You don't hear about the individuals. And when I finally did a show called Larry Charles' Dangerous World of Comedy, I went to Palestine and really met comedians, met children, met parents, and began to really understand on a very personal level how crazy the propaganda was against these very, very innocent people. And that was an eye-opening, an epiphany experience for me that changed me. I was already sympathetic, but then I had this personal experience that solidified it for me. I mean, this comedian who I was seeing, I interviewed and remained friendly with, Adi Khalifa, he had a workshop in Hebron for children, a comedy workshop for children that had been injured in the war. And you would hear their stories, and it wasn't being covered. And this was long before October 7th. So I knew that story was not being told, and that was important to me. I had the opportunity to share that story with people and let them see what the reality is. And wish that people could go have that experience like I did, because it would change their minds. If Bill went to Palestine, if Jerry went to Palestine and actually shook hands and walked amongst the people who adored Jerry, by the way, Seinfeld is a massive in Palestine. He would understand that these are people who don't want to do anything to anybody except live a quiet, contented life, and are being slaughtered essentially, in a what's called a genocide. And the fact that we have to argue about that word just seems part of the semantical, nonsense that we have to go through to even get to the truth.